Before I proceed, I have a small, tiny little request. I mean, in this, we are absolutely blessed because today is a Saturday morning, the first day of the weekend, and we still have a full house over here. A full house of industry stalwarts, and a full house which also has a mix of, apart from the industry stalwarts, the aspiring professionals. And very engaging, informative, inspiring sessions going on over here. But the only thing which actually is creating a hitch is the sudden random ringtones of many of you. So I may kindly and humbly request all of you to put your cell phones on a silent mode. Because actually I'm very sure you will not want to miss out any information or any engaging topic which is going on over here, and the speakers are talking about it. I'm sure you don't want to miss that, but those random ringtones might actually let you. So kindly avoid that and put your phones on a silent mode. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, those who have just joined us, a very, very warm welcome. This is your host, Sylvie, and I welcome you all to the third and the final day of INFOCOM 2024 here. We're going to take a little while for the setup to be done, but a thoroughly interesting and engaging session is coming up as we're going to have the first panel discussion for the day. And this first panel discussion, before I even delve into it, may I please request all of you who are standing to kindly be seated. Those of you who are still standing, I would request all of you to kindly be seated. Settle down. Take a while. Settle down. Place yourself. I'm still requesting those who are standing, kindly settle down. We have enough seats here to accommodate all of you. All right. So the first panel discussion for the day shall deliberate on decoding the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. This is a CISO panel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are absolutely delighted to have our esteemed panelists for this particular session. And as and when I will be calling them on right here on the stage, and they shall be joining, I would request all of you to please heartily, with a lot of warmth and a lot of kindness, put your hands together to welcome them. Please help me welcome our first panelist for this particular session. We have Mr. Jai Prakash Sharma, EVP, Technology, InfoEdge India Limited. Can I have a round of applause as I welcome him? This is just the first panel here. We are just beginning. I'm sure the energy is really, really high now. Thank you, sir, for joining. May I also request Mr. Prakash Kumar Ranjan, the CISO of India Bulls Housing Finance Limited, to kindly join us here on the stage. And can I expect a round of applause as I welcome him? Thank you so much, sir. Kindly be seated. Also, please help me welcome Mr. Avinash Tiwari, CISO of Pidilite Industries Limited. Well, those sitting at the back can actually make some effort and welcome our panelists, please, with a round of applause, everyone. And we are equally delighted to have Mr. Kaushik Shah, the CISO of RPSG, for a panel discussion here. Thank you, sir, for joining. Kindly be seated. All right, perfect time to call upon the chairperson and the moderator for this session, somebody who is absolutely apt for this. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the founder and director of ISOAH, Mr. Sandeep Sen Gupta, with a round of applause, everybody. Thank you, sir, for joining. Kindly settle down. And may I now request you to take the session forward from here, please.
A very good afternoon to everybody who is present over here. It's a good Saturday afternoon. The topic today is like DPDP, Digital Personal Data Protection. I'm sure that all of you get pesky calls from, digital arrest you have heard. You get calls from companies who are asking to give you a credit card. That was long time back. Now they are giving fake credit cards. That was genuine credit cards previously, maybe 5 years, 6 years back. So all these calls, and in fact, when we, I will just bring the context for you to relate. See, every day, people are losing a lot of money to Jamtara. Jamtara is just a word. This Jamtara is basically now a synonym for all the criminal activities which is going all over India. And in spite of telling people that do not share OTP, do not install any software in your mobile, do not believe that police will call you over the phone and tell you that they are going to arrest you. But every day people are giving out money, and it's almost millions of dollars, in the amount of millions of dollars that people are losing every day. Why do you think that these people are giving out the OTP, giving out all this information, in spite of being intelligent, educated, they are tech savvy, and there are a lot of people who are from IT, hardcore IT, tech savvy, and still they are giving out this OTP and installing the software. See, I work very closely with the police department, and the trend that I have seen, this Jamtara gang, when they are calling you, they have every bit of information about you. In fact, since I am the ethical hacker over there, they are the defenders. Sometimes I also help them to defend. If I get any phone number from any of this audience, I can tell your email ID, I can tell your home address, I can tell when did you make the last purchase on a particular site. In some cases, in US, I can even tell what is the value of the mortgage on the house. So all these database of your mobile, your husband's number, your wife's number. Yesterday I went to an event and somebody was asking me, can you do this? On the public database, we found the email ID, the address, and even the password. And the password was actually, it was encrypted, but the encryption was so weak, we could actually decrypt it and tell is this the password that you are using? And people have their favorite passwords, right? You make small tweaks in the password here and there, but you keep more or less the format same. So this is the problem. Now, once I tell you, I call you, I'm not giving live demo. We have a live demo at 3:25. So I believe all of you will join over there. Now the point is, every bit of information about you is floating in the public. How is it floating in the public? Because the companies where you have given this information, full trusting these companies, these are getting leaked out from there. Every major company, if you search on Google, their database got hacked. And all your confidential data is in the public, in the dark web, and finally it goes to the criminal syndicate all over the world, who calls you and gives you so much information about you, you believe that they are from a legitimate source. Now what government is trying to do, they have come up with DPDP, which is more or less similar to GDPR, and the rules will be coming out pretty soon. This, if you go to the last page of that 21-page document, there's a penalty of 250 crore, maximum 250 crore, but it's a cumulative penalty. Like if you have if there's a data breach, if you do not report that data breach, so it can be 200 crore plus 250 crore. So on one side, this is very good news for the citizens, that their data will not go out like this. People will be more careful about protecting their data. And on the other side, the CISOs who are sitting over there, the CIO, the practitioners, I believe there will be a lot of demand for privacy practitioners over the coming months. So today discussion, we have a very eminent panel over here, and this panel was chosen in a way that they are mostly significant fiduciary, right? So I was part of the discussion when this panel was chosen. So they are the people who has significant amount of data they are holding in their database, and they are the people who have taken all the effort to make sure that they are DPDP compliant. So this session is a very good learning session for us to know that how they have made the preparation, which can be a takeaway for you people, what challenges they are facing, and how they have solved it. So I will start from Kaushik Da on the extreme end. I'm having a different types of feedback from a lot of companies. When should I start? Is it the right moment to start for DPDP preparation? Or do we have enough time? Or should we have started 1 year back? Is the deadline yesterday, or we are late, or we are early?
Well, thanks, Mr. Sengupta, for the question. While the best time is to start yesterday, it is not today. Because if we start playing up the catch-up journey, trust me, everything would be against the clock. The prudence that should be applied is that try doing things when you are not under the radar, not after that you have come under the radar. Because if you've come under the radar, other than the financial consequences, there are a lot of image loss, reputation loss that happens. So the key is in preparation, is in prudence, is in doing three things right. People, process, and technology. These three things should be put right. So as some of the entities that we have do contain humongous amount of data, and as responsible corporate citizens, it is our endeavor to ensure whatever is there with us is kept in the right earnest, securely, and used only for the reason why it was shared. India is waking up, nascent to the current scheme of things, but then the government is doing all the right things so that very soon we are amongst the one of the topmost compliant nations doing the right thing at the right time, not because of the fear of the retributions in terms of 250 crores and the others, but because we want to do it right. Thank you.
Excellent. So I'll come to Avinash ji next. Avinash ji, what do you think is the normal average time for this implementation, timeline?
So thanks for the question, Sandeep. Just a note of caution. I'm a security practitioner. I'm still studying the law, okay, and trying to understand what is there for me, okay, and I'm still trying to push certain things not with me, because I have read the law. You mentioned about 23 pages.
So let me ask you a different question then. DPDP, how much is cyber and how much is law?
So, so I have done that assessment, because last week I was asked a question from the board that, Avinash, can you prepare the activity list and mark it, like, because they were offering me DPO role and I said I'm not ready for the DPO yet. So they said, like, just mark the activities and put a check that this I will be doing, this I will be doing, and what your legal and other department. So I'm afraid I could not find a single thing which my legal or other department will do. Most of the things I have to manage. Okay. So right from policy procedures to understanding the technical controls and to implementation, doing again a gap assessment and putting up a report in front of whoever will be the body, and that is a task. So just to answer your first question, how much time it will take. So Kaushik just mentioned you should start yesterday, not today. Every company has started in their bit. The first phase is almost, I think, 3 months to 4 months, depending on the size of data you are carrying. So first, when you do the gap assessment, basic gap assessment, from where the data is flowing, where it is being stored, in which form it is being stored, who is accessing, all those things. And then the technical control, which is the phase 2, which is a list of things right from encryption, data minimization, all those controls. And implementing that will take you minimum 6 to 9 months, minimum. Okay, this I'm talking about a like medium-sized company. Forget about bigger companies. For a small to medium-sized company, it will take at least 6 to 9 months on the technical controls, provided they have blessings from their management. Okay.
So I was coming to it. The first step may not be the gap assessment. First step can be an educational workshop over there to make it a top-down approach.
Yeah, so this DPDP activity is totally top-down approach. So first you have to go to your management, make them aware that what you are really trying to do. According to them, if suppose I'm coming from a manufacturing company, our job is to create some product, sell in the market, forget about what is data, why it is. Okay, but at the same time, as a job of security professional, we have to make them aware, and we are doing that. And the third phase is again doing another assessment that whatever you have done, what was required, whether you are there. And that report will again take almost a couple of months. So it's an year's almost exercise which you have to complete.
Excellent, excellent. So I believe we are all late in the show. We should start as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yesterday is always like a common nomenclature in any project, but I think it is not yesterday, it is last year, right? Great. So I will come to Prakashji. Prakashji, how have been this journey? I mean, sure that, how much like this journey that they were discussing that we have to do it from last year. So how much in the journey have you proceeded, and what are the challenges, common challenges that you have faced?
If we talk about the DPDP and its compliance, strategy, as part of the BFSI industry, we are already regulated by our sectoral regulator. So there are a lot of regulations already in place to protect the customer data, KYC data, personal data. But now the law has come which supersedes the sectoral regulations. So now we have to step up. It's an add-on to our existing controls that we have put in place. Like we already have consent management and all, but typically what happens in consent management is that it's all explicit consent. Somebody from legal has drafted the TNC, terms and conditions, and just put a condition, and neither the customer reads nor the employee tells what is written in the terms and condition, and there's a mandatory checkbox. People has to check, then only it will come to the next page. That's the, overall, if you see any, regulation, any departments, any business, this is the normal practice that, TNC is mandatory whether you read or not, otherwise you won't go to the next page. But now after coming up the DPDP, now there has to be a change. Now we have to take explicit consent, and we have to tell the customer for what purpose this data is being, taken. So now the customer also has to be made aware for what purpose, if you are asking for, Aadhaar, if you are asking for DL, whatever we are asking, or financial data, because we are into the, loans, business. So we ask financial data as well to appraise the loan. So for what purpose we are asking, like if you are doing to any, MSME or something, we are asking the balance sheet and all, for what purpose this is being used. Now we have to intimate the customers. And the next, the last piece that I will talk about is that, as of now, when the incident happens, typically, like we are into NBFC, so it's a BFSI, we have to report to RBI and then the certain, that is the mandatory. But after coming of DPDP, now it's mandatory to intimate the customer as well. Typically in India, we don't intimate the customers of any incident. So now we have to intimate the customer as well in case of any incident. So, the incident management has to be overhauled. That, it has to be updated that, in case of any privacy related incidents, we have to intimate the customer. So now, everything that is typically any incident is surpassed into the, carpet of the organization has to be exposed. So there is a lot of reputational risk that is now being associated, because when you are informing the customer, there would be a lot of questions, queries on the media part. Typically in cyber incidents, people are not aware of, because we intimate the regulator and the certain, and it is not coming to the news.
Right. So as a continuation to the question, Jayaprakash ji, Naukri.com, right?
Not only Naukri, but yeah, a lot of PII
all our
data.
Secrets are with you.
Lot of PII data.
Right? All our resumes is with him. All the secrets.
All the secrets.
all the
yeah, that's
secrets.
the correct one.
So now, huge amount of data, right? What are the challenges? I'm not asking how your company, as you have gone through this readiness journey, if you look at the companies over here who are sitting, there are a lot of companies sitting from India and also outside India. What are the major challenges, like top 5 challenges that these companies will face while going for DPDP implementation? If you have some tips for these people.
I don't know whether I have some tips, but I can certainly share my experience. First of all, thank you so much for inviting here. We carry a lot of PI data. I mean, whether you call it like your resumes, you call it like your matrimonial data, whether you call it like your purchases from a real estate perspective, from your food choices perspective, from your insurance perspective, from your loans perspective, a lot of PIA data. I mean, and recently, like we had acquired another organization where we become the India's first dating site as well. So that's also personal choices data. So first and the foremost thing, like when DPDP actually kicked in, the first thing was like we all were blank from a actual rules to be followed perspective. So first was the discovery thing, which was very, very important. So like, though we know like how the data is coming, where the data is getting stored, how exactly we are processing, and for which section we are sharing the data between the businesses. I mean, that's also very, very critical, because like, as per land of law, you can't share kind of like a online jobs related data with my matrimonial data. I cannot, because that's where like I have been boundaried around. So discovery becomes the first and the foremost important thing. But how do you do the discovery? That was another challenge. How do you interpret the law into the actual business operations was the biggest challenge. So like we also hired some of the consultants where like it was a combination of, you call it the lawyers who can interpret the law as per the requirements, convert those things as per our IT Act, as per our technical controls as well. So that was the first discovery mode which we had started. And then probably we need to relook the complete privacy terms which we used to publish earlier. So that is much more important, because that's the first thing which is public. And based on that privacy terms, anybody, like what you are doing with the data, that you need to declare there. The other panelist already talked about like, you have to take the consent. But it is not just the consent. Now you need to let the customer know why you are collecting this data, what you will do with this data, how you will store this data, how you will process the data, and finally, in case if the customer comes back to you and says like, please remove my data, that time you can cleanly remove his data and provide him evidence along with, which is a hidden thing, that any point of time the legal organizations can ask for any past records of last 7 to 8 years, even if you had deleted the customer data, but what was the transaction which has been done. So that is very, very critical in that terms. So, I mean, discovery, assessment, then comes is like, how do you map the data? Data versus technology, or both the mapping has to happen. Then what all are the gaps you identify? How do you fill those bridges? Once you start filling, so this is a journey. I would say like we had just started the journey. Though rightly said, we had started the journey yesterday. I mean, and today we are at a stage like we know how to take the consent, how to store the data. Probably journey is still on. We are waiting for the new frameworks to kick in, which could be in another couple of months probably. Then we could able to tell that how mature, from an DPDP perspective, how mature we are at this moment. But I would say like, okay, initially, let's get started with the interpretation, assessment, technology tools mapping, just to get started. Thank you.
So again, I will ask another question to you. You will need a DPO, right? and you will need a DPO. And there are many young people and mid-level senior people sitting over there who would aspire to become a DPO, right? So from your point of view, how should one get ready to become, because there will be hundreds of DPO roles which will be created as soon as this DPDP comes into play, right? And there is a huge job opportunity for all the people sitting over there. So what, from your point of view, how should they get ready? What should be the skill? What will you look for in a DPO to select somebody for your company?
So we need to understand, like, see, depending on the size of the organization and the kind of data you are collecting. So if you become a service provider and specifically into a particular industry, then you normally, and if you have a large amount of data, PIA data, then you become a data fiduciary. So it is, or rather you call it significant data fiduciary. When you become a significant data fiduciary, at that time, law mandates to have a DPO appointed for your organization. And you have to make that DPO person information public. For DPO role, right now there is no criteria specifically given in the law that he has to be qualified into these parameters. But this is again based on the experience, what we analyzed and what we kind of like a finalized a role is something which you call it like a 50% combination of legal knowledge, and the person can map those legal requirements into technology advancements or deliveries. That's very, very important, because like you certainly, like, first and the foremost thing, whenever the audit happens, you have to understand the compliance. You need to interpret that compliance. You need to advocate to the auditor that whatever evidences you guys has collected, probably like you can relate in terms of law, because that is the foremost thing. And then comes is the technology controls. So like in case if you need to demonstrate something. So at that time, DPO should be capable enough to understand the business side of it as well and the technology side of things as well. So it's a combination of both the, I would say both the skills. In case if you have an understanding of law, nothing like it, because that's important. May not be right now, but that's important.
So I will give you an information. I think Avinash mentioned that he has started learning law. Even after 26 years into ethical hacking, I have also taken admission into a law college.
I am a LLB, I have an advocate's license as well. I am I am having all the security, you call it like requirements, probably I have all kind of certifications as well, because I have to upgrade. In case if I have to comply to this rule, this act, probably all the aspiring people has to have an understanding of law. Without that, you will face challenges. I won't be saying like, okay, you can't succeed. I mean, certainly on the technical side of it, like a ethical hacker, or maybe you call it like a analyst, probably you will be successful, but somewhere like you will miss the edge.
So I'll go to Avinash ji actually. So you carry on. I mean, you have something to add over there.
No, I just wanted to add a couple of things. JP just mentioned about significant data fiduciary. Majority of company will not fall under that category. Okay, InfoAge is a different kind of company, but in most of the times, you have some escape route. Okay, but there are a couple of ways, a couple of things which are mandatory. So, Ranjan just mentioned the consent management. You cannot skip that thing. You have to have a proper consent management, whether it is through your applications you are designing or having a separate system to manage all the consent. And the second part, where the CISOs are required, which is the incident management. Because data attacks will happen, data will get breached, data will get published. What next? So that is the question. So second part, handling those breaches, communicating that to the data principals in a proper format, that is a big challenge which like people are still not opening up. And maybe with this law, that will help us to take a step forward into that way.
So there is actually a channel which you need to follow.
Correct.
If you look into the law, there is a channel. It's not like it will straight go into a penalty. There are different levels
Obviously.
where you have to report. And if you follow that, most likely it is okay.
Yeah, it's like you go to local court, session court, high
Correct.
court, Supreme
Correct.
Court. So
Correct.
same format is there in this DPDP as well. It's not that
Correct.
directly we will go to
So
Supreme
I have
Court and
another
we'll-
question for you. Like since you are a practitioner like me, for anybody who wants to become a DPO or become a practitioner, which certification do you think has an age, like DSCI certification, CIPP or ISO 27701?
So whatever certification you have mentioned, I have not done that. Okay. But I have studied the content of DSCI, okay, and they are doing good work from the awareness perspective. They are like generating more aware practitioners, and they will be the next DPOs of the companies. They will take the additional role
Within India.
Yes. So that is what I find more relevant. But if you take a step further, go to a global GDPR compliance, then there are multiple courses people have opted for, and they have certified like data privacy officers kind of thing.
Right. So I believe what will happen in India, since we are always less in budget, the CISO or the CIO will develop as the DPO, and you all people need to have good fair knowledge of law, because I realized this and I took admission in the law college. Maybe you will not have to do that, but you still need to have fair knowledge of law, otherwise it will be a trouble for you people. I will get to Prakash ji. Third party. So DPDP, data leakage can happen from the data processors, right? Which is a very, very critical. They are the backdoor to our system, unknowingly. How do you, as a company, or how do they should take care of it?
See, supply chain risk is already been talked about. Now, when it is linked with privacy aspects, now we share a lot of data with our partners, or we get a lot of data from the partners. So sometimes we play the role of data fiduciary, sometimes a data processor. So it is always interchangeable. So now we have to see and set the boundaries first, what accountability I have and what they have. Also, though like for us, RB already mandated right to audit clause has to be there whenever we are having any third party agreement, and a lot of controls that has to be there when you are managing the supply chain risk. Similarly, for privacy aspects also, we need to now be pretty sure how they are processing and how they are storing the data of our customers. Because at the end we are accountable and we are responsible to the customer, because we are signing on behalf of the customer the agreement and the arrangements. So the customer does not know whether we have done the due diligence, whether we have done the security audits, or the privacy related aspects. But at the end, if the data breach has happened, customer is going to come to us.
Even as per DPDP, the fiduciary is responsible.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Right?
that's very
Because when we go and implement
Yeah.
DPDP in several customers, we tell them very openly that if something goes wrong, then you are responsible, not the processors.
Correct.
Right?
So that is why we need to have a strong control audit to be done when we are sharing the data with any third party. We have to be sure that how they are processing and how they are securely storing the data.
Right. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. Earlier CISO were called to be a techno-functional role. Now the DPO will be called a techno-legal role.
Techno-legal role. In fact, the CIO, CISO, DPO all will converge together. Techno-legal. Most interesting, and the last question goes to Kaushikda. We have very less time. India, our problem is not the hackers, not the scammers, but zero budget. How do you manage this?
Well, it is again a chicken story. So the way that we probably take this up is, there's a cost of doing business. And this is not a good to have stuff, it is a must to have stuff. So if you have to survive in the business, if you have to be more than the legal compliance, first comes our own standards. If you have to be what we are, and if we have to be the torchbearers, then of course there's a cost to it. Now it is easier said than done, because in boardrooms, whenever the cost projections come up, you do not see much very happy faces. And then, depending on the kind of nature of business that you are into, the acceptance levels vary. For certain nature of businesses, where the survival would be dependent on what you exactly do on these fronts. The acceptability is higher. The availability of budgets always becomes much easier. But then it is left best to the prudence of the people, the leaders, to make sure that they do whatever is needed.
The last page of DPDP is very interesting for the budgeting part, right? The 250 plus 200.
So yeah, so the last page actually helps. So it is like the carrot of the stick story. We don't incur the expenses which are required, then we have to fill the bill that is there. So whichever comes first and whichever is lowest, the choice is of the people to make in the board.
Great. Sylvia, will you allow us to take up 2 questions from the audience? Because I am getting a lot of WhatsApp text. Maybe 2 more. 2 questions? Anybody from here? Yes, sir.
So blockchain as a technology is very helpful, but in the recent trends, if you have seen, it has not evolved, especially in the BFSI space. It has, to a certain extent, like in land registry records and all, blockchain has been heavily used by the government. But when we talk about BFSI and supply chain, typically it is not the thing that it is being utilized as of now. It can be a good use case, but not as of now that any organization I have seen or it's in my knowledge that they are using blockchain for sharing data with the supply chain or something.
I will just add one more thing to it. Blockchain, the problem starts when somebody tells you have a right to be forgotten.
Correct.
That is a bottleneck. So if you put a PII over there, then it's a challenge. If you put a non-PII over there, it's not a challenge.
If it's non-PI, then definitely it's not
then this will not be applicable. Right?
Also, there are many stakeholders in
Correct,
the chain.
Correct.
So like who publishes that data, that is the only person who can remove it. So it is not the other person. So that's another typical challenge which comes along.
Right. So we will take up more questions. One more question and we can take them offline actually. One more question? Anyone? I think Sylvia is now giving me hard look. So
I am not. I'm smiling. I'm a very cool person.
So I would like to end this. Thanks to all the. You are asking the question to whom?
Anybody can.
Okay, so open question
and
to all of you.
another point is, are you feeling that you are also protected with this DPDP Act as a individuals? And how do you segregate it in a personal way?
No, I think question is not very clear.
No. So first question is, who should drive this initiative in the company? Either CISO, CIO, CEO. And second one is, are you feeling that you are protected with this act as a individuals?
So I'll take it from the first question. This has to be covered from a risk management perspective. First thing, risk management is not one person's responsibility or one designation's responsibility. It's an organizational level responsibility. So first it has to be get driven from there. Whether you call it that depending on the organization, whether you call it financial risk is higher or reputational risk is higher, depending on organization, depending on what kind of data you are collecting, probably you can prioritize, sequentialize. But it's a risk to the organization, and this is a land of law. So we have to comply. It is not like we have any escape way to just neglect this. So if we have to stay in business, we have to take it. So I think that itself gives you an hint from where to get started.
So let's hope that very soon we will come to the conclusion that privacy is not a myth. So over to you, Sylvia. Thank you.
All right, I think that was a very informative session over here, and a lot of decoding actually was needed, and I think the purpose has been solved over here to quite a huge extent. I would thank each of one of you over here, especially our moderator, and at this point of time, please help me welcome on stage the Vice President of Production and Engineering, Mr. Shomnath Guha. And I would request all of you, first of all, to kindly applaud as I welcome him. And I would request him to kindly felicitate all our panelists over here. Starting with Mr. Kaushik Shah. We have Mr. Avinash Tiwari. And moving on to Mr. Prakash Kumar Ranjan. And then we're going to have Mr. Jai Prakash Sharma. And finally, of course, our moderator for this session, Mr. Sandeep Sengupta. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Guha. Thank you, gentlemen. I would request for a photo opportunity. Yes. I would request for a group photo opportunity, please. All right, it is that time of the day when we feel a little hunger pangs, and to satisfy that, the lunch has been served. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly enjoy the lunch, but please make sure we have some very, very interesting sessions coming up post-lunch. So we are going to start off, we're going to roll on at 2:40 p.m. Please make sure you are here assembled around 2:30 to 2:40. Thank you so much.